Hey everyone, myself Surjit. I'm a cloud data engineer at Google. I've been working here for past 2.5 years now, and I'll be walking you through today the CI/CD portion of Dataflow and how we have talked a lot about how we build Dataflow pipelines and Beam and everything, but how do we actually deploy it in GCP and probably what are different patterns we can use in live environments to deploy these things. We're going to walk through some basics before we jump into different type of data flow templates, and I'll follow it with a demo. I have a recorded session just in case the live demo doesn't work, but I'll try to show it live. Uh, uh, so to start with, to set the basic context, CI/CD is a software lifecycle process where it helps out to integrate your codes from different developers, as well as the continuous delivery means you can deploy your code as you build it and test it and integrate it so that your systems are robust and we catch any of the integration errors or bugs in your code or any testing failures beforehand, even if before you deploy a new change. For this demo, I'll be using two of the GCP services. There's Cloud Source Repository, that's nothing but a code repo. The alternatives are GitLab, Bitbucket, and all those kind of other applications where you can store your code, collaborate with other developers in your organization or teams. The second is Cloud Build. Cloud Build is a lets you build your DevOps or deployment applications or your building applications using YAML. So you can integrate your code repo with Cloud Build application to run your code. It's same as automating. Let's suppose you're running a Python command locally. How would you do that in a live, application in an automated manner rather than how you run a Python command locally? That's what Cloud Build does. Similar to Cloud Build, there are alternatives, GitLab pipelines. I think GitHub Actions also fits into this category. So, but for the sake of simplicity, I'll be using the GCP services for now. Let's talk about different type of data flow templates. This is a one concept where new adopters of data flow who want to write their Beam code and run into data flow gets confused. So a data flow template is it lets you package your data flow code so it's easier to share and deploy. And there are two types of data flow templates, Flex and Classic. Flex templates lets you build a Docker image where you can package your all your code dependency into a Docker file, and it also creates a specification file on cloud storage. So when you launch Dataflow, you references that Docker image to launch your Dataflow pipeline. And in classic templates, it's just a JSON serialization of your Dataflow graph. So when it launches, Dataflow tries to get all the dependencies from public internet and downloads it. So think of it as in a way that with Flex, I work with different use cases where we don't have public access. So in that case, they use a Docker image, download all their packages in their CI/CD process, and deploy the data flow. Since your data flow is restricted to go via internet, it cannot go and fetch PyPy packages or whatever packages you want. And in classic template is when data flow launches, it says, okay, I got the data flow graph. I need these libraries. I try to get these from internet. So that's a major differences. Classic templates is kind of a little bit legacy. Flex template is what we use for any new development. I'll be demoing classic templates today to walk you through different components that we have. There's another template that terminology that we use is Google provided data flow templates. It's not another way of packaging your code. It's just Google pre-built 30 to 40 templates which lets you do your work. So common patterns, like if you want to move data, you can directly invoke the template from the GCP UI or launch it via gcloud without writing a single line of code. It helps you do a lot of work directly out of the box. So this is a high level architecture of how our CI/CD process will look like. We use cloud source repository to check out our code first, and you can integrate that with Cloud Build. So Cloud Build can start building your application code either via a commit whenever somebody commits into into the repo, or you can invoke it manually, or when a tag is created. And then in Cloud Build, you define your steps that needs to follow to build your template, build your classic template or flex template. So since we're doing classic template as a demo, I'll be building a template in Cloud Build where I define set of commands in YAML file, which will build my template and send my JSON serialized file on a cloud storage bucket. And from there, another task will start, which will use that deployed that file in the GCS and try to deploy Dataflow. Moving ahead, these are two commands which while I was building this demo, I tested with these two commands, and then I automated via YAML. The two commands which separates your build and deploy method is you have your Python code and you just build it with some specifications and you provide some required variables, staging location, like that's where your all your stage libraries when Dataflow is going to try to download all the packages is going to be stored. The template location, this is basically where your specification file goes. So now you have built your template. That means it's compiled without any errors and everything is good. You have your packages. You can fire a deploy command, a run command, which will just look at that template and use the template, the serialized graph to start your Dataflow job. So I'm just going to switch my screens here to walk you through the demo that I have. So this is a basic code that I've built for this one, basic Python code which just reads the data, parses your CSV rows and write into a big query. Nothing complex here. And I've given the requirements file here, what it needs to start. And this is the main file that I have. Basically, it's essentially the commands that I had. I tried to put it in the YAML format. Uh, Even before running this, we need a GCS bucket. I've segregated these into the location where my classic template will go once it's pre-built. Once it's built, input data that I'm using for this demo and staging in temporary locations. Now let's walk through this bucket. So over here, I kept it in the same repo. So I'm just defining the repository I need to pull when my code is going to start. It's essentially the same repo. And I'm just doing some movement between my directories, changing directories and everything. Then I'm downloading all my dependencies, which is needed to build my graph locally. So when you start development, you might download Apache Beam, Secrets Manager, or XYZ's library. So even the cloud build instance to build it, it needs all those dependencies on the cloud build instance to start. So that's what it's basically doing. The next two commands are what we saw in the presentation. I just have kept it in a YAML file, passing all the parameters, which is essentially building your template. And finally, the last command is what will deploy this to the Dataflow. So this is how I define it. Then I'll switch to the cloud build page where I've created a trigger and attach it to my particular repo that I had in cloud source repository. So let's see. I'm going to edit and show you some of the configurations that I have done. So the basic event and everything. So you can define multiple events. So if you use GitLab, Bitbucket, you can, whenever somebody creates a merge request, you can start this, select these kind of options. If you want to invoke your building of your code as per merge request, you can do that. Um, I'm using cloud source repositories. You can also use other repositories as well. I think it has integration with GitHub and GitLab as well. I've specified which branch I want to run this on, and invocation I've kept as manual for now because for demo I'll be triggering this manually. And I've defined in my repository where is my YAML file. You can also write your YAML inline, but it's always easier in production systems. You have a file and checked out somewhere. So that's what my configuration is for Cloud Build. I'm just going to go back. Now I'm going to start my executions. It takes like 2 to 3 minutes to complete the executions. Yeah. So over here, when you start, you can potentially say like which, it has all the different variables that we configured. You can start, you can also build your code based on any of the commit hash as well. But for now, I'm just going to take the latest commit. So if I just say branch, it's going to start the code on the latest commit. So if I click on show, so these are all the steps that we defined, like checking out the code, changing the directory, installing the libraries. It's gonna take like 2 minutes to do that. It's gonna build the template, and as well as finally it's gonna install the template, launch the template. Okay. Anyways, I guess I'll probably walk through the recording here. It's essentially the same thing that I walked through. So once the all the deployments or all the installations go through, it's gonna start the next step, which is a step three of building your template, and finally the deployment. So once it's complete, you're gonna see all the three checks. As you can see, the step two was installing all your dependencies. Then it builds the templates. So while building, it expects you have that file somewhere to package it, and that's where we got the error here. So once you build it, it will send your file to cloud storage bucket, and also the final step, the step four, is where it's going to launch the template. So once we build it, you can see like everything happened and it started the template job that we have defined there. And on the GCS side, this is a path where we define our template specification or JSON serialized graph would go. So that's where I put the graph there. And the other buckets that we have, like staging, it will have all the dependency installed in that particular staging bucket, which can Dataflow is going to refer eventually to get the packages and install it on its own system. So it has a .pb file, which is a pipeline file, and all the other dependency that it has. And the last, I have a Dataflow page as well. Yeah. So that's how your job looks like when the data flow starts. And it's basically, as I said, it's a basic pipeline which reads data from GCS and write to BigQuery. That is the recording. So what else, right? So we did in the past, in the previous step, we used Cloud Build for building and deploying your template as well, right? But what if you their use cases you not always deploy your pipeline with Cloud Build? Probably your production cycle is not yet there, or whatever the timelines are not right and everything. So that's where we have splitted it into build and deploy. As you see, I ran two commands to build it and deploy it. So once you build it, you have your file, your spec file, your JSON serialized file on GCS. Once you have that in GCS, you can use it with other tools to deploy your data flow pipeline. So there are tools which you can pass the similar type of variables. You can launch it via Terraform. You can launch it via Cloud Composer. You can also start your pipeline with Cloud Functions. Like let's suppose you get a notification and you want event-driven notification. You want to launch your data flow on some notification. You can use Cloud Functions as well as you can use Cloud Workflows as well. So all this, the variables that you pass with all this application essentially remain same. It just helps you to orchestrate your data pipelines better, since you can divide your build and deploy pieces. So for something like streaming, you might probably use, since streaming you launch once and it keeps on running forever. You can probably use a gcloud command as well, or you can use another service which lets you schedule your cron. So you can use that as well in your application. On the next slide, I've included how you will run your Flex templates. This will send you to a GCP documentation page, which walks you through how you will build a Docker image if you want to deploy your Flex template, as well as I've included a link of Google provided templates that we have. which lets you, do a lot of the patterns that we have outside. It lets you figure out, like, build those even without writing a single line of code.